On August 2nd, 1776, the United States Declaration of Independence was signed at the Pennsylvania State House in Philadelphia, later known as Independence Hall. It was signed by 56 delegates of the Second Continental Congress who represented the 13 colonies. On July 4th, 1776, 12 colonies voted in favor of independence, while New York abstained because it hadn't received approval from its leadership in Albany. The Declaration was announced that the 13 colonies were now independent states, no longer under British rule. The signers' names are listed by state except for John Hancock, who signed as the President of Congress, with the states ordered from south to north, starting with Button Gwinnett of Georgia and ending with Matthew Thornton of New Hampshire. Although the Declaration was finalized and approved on the 4th of July, the historians agreed the actual signing took place on August 2nd, 1776, not on July 4th as many people think. 40 years ago, on August 2nd, 1985, Delta Airlines Flight 191, a regularly scheduled Lockheed L-1011 TriStar domestic flight from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Los Angeles, California, with an immediate stop at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, encountered a microburst while on approach to land at DFW. The aircraft crashed just over a mile before reaching the runway, hitting a car near the airport and then colliding with 2 water tanks before breaking apart. Of the 163 people on board, 136 were killed and 25 were injured. 1 person on the ground was also killed. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, the accident was caused by the crew's decision to fly through a thunderstorm combined with insufficient training or procedures for dealing with microbursts and a lack of wind shear hazard warnings. In the years that followed, forecasting of microbursts improved, and as of this year, only one other commercial fixed-wing aircraft crash in the United States, U.S. Air Flight 1016 in 1994, has been caused by a microburst. The crew consisted of 3 flight crew members and 8 cabin crew members. Of the 11 crew members, only 3 flight attendants survived. In command of the flight was Captain Edward Michael Connors Jr., 57, who had been a Delta employee since 1954. Connors had logged over 29,300 hours of flight time, and 3,000 of them in the TriStar. First Officer Rudolph Perzizial Price Jr., 42, had been a Delta employee since 1970. Delta captains who flew with Price described him as an above-average first officer who possessed excellent knowledge of the TriStar. Price had logged 6,500 flight hours, including 1,200 in the TriStar. And flight engineer Nicholas Nestor Nasick, 43, had been a Delta employee since 1976. He had logged 6,500 hours of flight time, including 4,500 in the TriStar. Fellow Delta employees described Nasick as observant, alert, and professional. Among the deaths was Don Estridge, known to the world as the father of the IBM PC. He died aboard the flight along with his wife Mary. 2 IBM summer interns, 4 IBM employees from the IBM branch office in Burbank, California, and 6 additional family members of IBM employee were also killed in the crash. Those who live in Dallas, Texas, never forget. Also, on August 2nd, 1990, the Iraqi Republic under President and dictator Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. After Iraq overpowered Kuwait on August 4th, 1990, it occupied the country for 7 months. The international community strongly opposed the invasion, and the United States Security Council passed several resolutions demanding Iraq's withdrawal. Despite this, Iraq refused to leave. Initially, it set up a puppet government called the Republic of Kuwait, but later fully annexed the country on August 28th. Northern Kuwait was absorbed into Iraq's Basra Governorate as the Saddamiyat al-Mitla district, while the south became the newly formed Kuwait Governorate. In November 1990, The UNSC passed Resolution 678, giving Iraq a final deadline to leave by January 15, 1991, or face military force. A United States-led coalition was formed in preparation for war. When Iraq ignored the deadline, the coalition launched a bombing campaign against Iraq on January 17, 1991, marking the start of the Gulf War. Hoping to divide the coalition, Iraq launched several missiles at Israel, expecting a response that would make Muslim nations withdraw their support. However, Israel did not retaliate. On February 23rd, the coalition began a ground offensive into Kuwait and parts of Iraq. As Iraqi forces pulled back, they set fire to more than 700 Kuwaiti oil wells in a failed effort to stall the coalition. By February 28th, Iraq's military was defeated and Kuwait regained its independence. The reasons behind Iraq's invasion of Kuwait remain debated. One theory suggests Iraq was struggling to repay $14 billion in loans from Kuwait during the Iran-Iraq War. Critics say Kuwait's overproduction of oil beyond its OPEC quota hurt Iraq's economy by lowering oil prices. Iraq viewed this as hostile economic behavior. In early 1990, Iraq accused Kuwait of stealing oil through slant drilling along the border. However, some sources suggest Saddam Hussein had already planned the invasion months earlier. Within just 2 days of the attack, most Kuwaiti forces were overwhelmed, and many government officials fled to Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. One of the main battles that took place in the invasion was the Battle of Dasman Palace. Sheikh Fahad al-Ahmed al-Jabr al-Sabah, who was the first president of the Asian Handball Federation, was among those killed during the invasion. He was 44. Also on that day, British Airways Flight 149, a Boeing 747-136 with 367 passengers and 18 crew members, landed at Kuwait International Airport right in the middle of the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait during the early morning hours. It was a scheduled flight from Heathrow Airport in London, England, to Subang International Airport in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, via Kuwait International Airport in Kuwait City, Kuwait, and Madras International Airport in Madras, India. After the plane arrived in Kuwait, the flight was never able to continue because of the sudden invasion. Within hours, Iraqi forces had quickly advanced to Kuwait City and seized control of the airport, where they captured the aircraft and everyone on board. Most passengers and crew were taken to nearby hotels where they were held under armed guard along with other foreign nationals. The plane was later destroyed on the ground, but it remains unclear who was responsible. While being held, several passengers reported witnessing acts of violence committed by Iraqi soldiers and experiencing mistreatment themselves. To secure their freedom, former British Prime Minister Edward Heath traveled to Baghdad and held direct talks with Saddam Hussein. One passenger, a Kuwaiti civilian, was reported to have been murdered by Iraqi troops, while the others were eventually released after the conflict ended. Many of those who survived the ordeal suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder afterward. Not only did the Iraqi army held the passengers and crew hostage, there are also some Western people in Kuwait too. British, American, French, German, and Japanese. Some of the hostages were even brought to the Iraqi TV cameras, and they were greeted by the Iraqi president himself, Saddam Hussein. And there is even footage and photos of a 5-year-old British boy named Stuart Lockwood standing right next to Saddam himself. And Stuart, however, was too shy to talk because he just couldn't talk. Those who are Kuwaiti, never forget August 2nd, 1990. those who died under Iraqi occupation and aggression, we'll never forget them too. Also, there is a documentary about the British Airways incident on YouTube. And if y'all can't find it, there's a link in the description down below. You'll be able to find it. I've watched it before, and that documentary is very informative to those who were actually there. That's all I have for today. If you all like what you hear, leave a comment down below and subscribe here. This is Stephen Luke, and this is my first August video. I'm going back to college on August 14th, and as you know, this video was posted on August 2nd because I didn't actually film it on that day because right now it's August 1st, but the reason why I can't film it on August 2nd is because that I have a family birthday party to go to, which is it's my grandfather's friend. That's all I have for today, and I'll see you next time for another history update. Peace out.